All right, so so like I was saying, I'll try to show us how you can easily fetch out the keyword from the program once you type the first two letter. Just press the tab button, and then you see all the words with the keyword that you have typed. So from there, you can locate the one you want to select, and then if I run it, you can see that this actually calls out only 5, like I said, 5. Now, why is it displaying only 5? Because we did not put, we call the function with empty what? Parameter. So if I want the first 50, like we have been asked to do, I will just have to type the 50 inside and then run it, and that will give me what? A 50 record uh, from the main data. So if you check it, you see that you have exactly 50 record pulled out from the main data set. And not just pulling them out, you have stored them in a different variable, which means that at the moment, this becomes another data set or a sub data set from the first one. So there are some data sets you'll be given to analyze where this kind of operation might be involved. So you need to know how to do it. So that is just for that. So another one I want to show us. So this is just like the continuation of the last class.
Excuse me, please. I am,
Did it all, but I think I
you
dropped the
know,
name.
while you are walking,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Mine is DA3, so I work with DA3 and follow the process.
Okay.
But on running it, I'm having error,
Get your hand line there.
and it's saying name DA3 is not defined. Why?
You have to restart the entire program because you created this particular framework last time and you resume it today. So when you encounter that kind of error and you are very sure that you have the A3, then you go to run and then you select run all cells. So if you can do
Okay.
that, that will settle it. So whenever you
Yeah.
resume your dashboard, always quickly run the entire set so that all the command can connect. Hope you have sorted that already.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
I'm running all sales now, but
Take some time.
nothing. I think it's working on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, it will come up. If truly you have the A3 there, it will come up.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so it will come up. All right, so that is just how to do that. So I wanted to show us one more technique we can use as part of way of checking or understanding our data sets, which is describe. So there is a function called describe, which we can use as the name implies to describe our data. So actually, this is used to summarize your data with 2 or more statistical functions. So on one hand, it can serve as a way of inspecting your data, and on the other hand, it can serve as analysis. Because what we are going to discover now through the describe can be as analysis, at the same time can be that you just want to check certain figure or certain parameters in your data set. So, like I said, it is a single function that wraps in its 2 or more statistical functions that can be used to summarize your data. So let's say we are asked to describe the DA2. So the syntax will be the data set name, then dot describe like this. We are not putting anything inside the bracket. So let me apply it to the DA2 dot describe, and then run it. So you see what happened. So it calls out only the headers with numbers, either integer or floats. You know, if you look at that entire data set, we have other headers, but those headers are not captured here. So it captures only headers where you have numbers, and the result you are getting now is that under ID you have total what 101 record. Under what other date you have that same number, and that is what you have all true. So that is what the count is doing. That under mean, that is the average. That is what all the values under ID, this is the average of them. The one here, this is the average. So that is what the function is trying to do for you. Right? Now we have mean, that is minimum. We have a kind of random percentage that it has analyzed on its own, grouping them into 25%, 50%, 75%. Then we have maximum, and then we have standard deviation. That is why I told us that sometimes this function can serve as a function which is also used to inspect our data. For example, the inspection aspect is that I have been able to know that, oh, there are 101 record. That may just be the reason why I called it. Now, I can also relate to them individually. If I don't want to use this count, the mean, the minimum, the maximum, with or within the describe function, because the describe function right now is like a container of this word statistical function. So I can as well exploit them individually if I want. So if I want to, for example, I can say DA2.count. That is what out of that describe, I want to use only what one of the functions. So if I run it, you see that what it will give me only the counting. So I may consider this one too complex. You can see the way it's giving me 0, 0. I can say, okay, I don't want to access the counts from the describe. I want to access it as a stand-alone function. I can do the same. I can say DA2 dot mass. That is what for maximum. Can run it, and then it will give me the maximum under each of those columns. So under ID, this is the maximum. Under region, the maximum you are getting here is the what? The most occurrence what? Value. So you can see that this maximum, using the maximum alone, is actually giving me more insight than when it was analyzed through the describe. How do I know? You can see that when I deploy the describe, I could not get headers with string. Let me go there and show us. I could not get header with string. Look at it here. So there is nothing like country here. So it actually focuses on only headers with number. But as I run it alone, I'm able to what? Analyze header. In fact, all the headers, I'm able to analyze all the headers. But in terms of string like this, whatever value it outputs is the highest. So supposing we are asked now, out of the region, which of the region has the more, as in the highest what entry? Is going to be what? Sub-Sahara Africa. The under country, which of the country has more entry? Is going to be what? Zambia. Under item type, which of the item type we have more under that column is going to be what? Vegetable. So you can see that running it alone as a data analyst, actually provide you what? More insight. So I can do the same thing. I can say DA2 dot minimum dot minimum dot minimum. You can see that this same analysis, but now region, the minimum is Asia, and then under country you have what? Albania. So you can see how you can use this function as stand-alone. If you feel you do not want to get this information through the describe. I hope that is clear. Let us always respond on time. That is how I know that you are hearing me.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Okay, I hope it's clear.
It's clear.
All right.
But just that the explanations, they are not really like the way it is well understood with Excel. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
I understand. But as far as I'm concerned, yes, you might be right, but I feel that it's faster compared to doing it in Excel.
yes, it's faster, but the cocoa is not just to run it, it's the analysis, to analyze it.
Yes.
So
But you are getting the
there,
information. Like now, like when I was communicating the outcome, I said under ID, though your focus may not really be on all the header. You might just be looking for the what? Maybe the total profit, the revenue. You just want to know the highest total revenue and the highest what? Total profit. Maybe your report, you just want to, reflect that.
what I'm saying is in Excel, we asked specific questions
Yeah.
that we answered analyzing it. But these ones are not, we don't have questions. We are just dealing with, you said, okay, like if you want to know the region, you say that the sub-Saharan Africa is the highest. I think if you can generate questions, then while we are working, then we answer those questions. That will give more insight.
Okay.
Right now, it is just open, and you are just running the analysis based on, and it's not answering the questions. It's not answering specific questions. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I understand what you are saying, but if you look at it the other way around, I have also, only that I did not write out the questions. But if you look at after outputting this, when I was saying, for example, now region, we have sub-Sahara, which means that the analysis question there is what? Analyze the what? The highest region. And like here, under country, which means that what? Analyze the highest country. So, but because I feel that this is not the first application, we have come all the way from Excel. You should be able to attribute them on your own to questions. That is why I was just trying to run them, because and again, I am treating all these under inspection, not analysis. If I have started analyzing data, you will see where I'll come up with those questions. The reason why I have to chip them in, because I may not remember, because we'll be dealing with more important analysis. I may not remember mass mean. So that is why I just have to quickly bring them here. But there are still analysis where we're going to use different syntax, not even this one, to answer those questions. All right. So let's look at the main topic for tonight, which is data cleaning, because I'm trying to follow the order. The order is that once you load in your data, you don't start analyzing. You check your data and then you study your data. Then after you have studied and understand the data, then if there are errors, you need to fix them, before you can start your analysis. So we have not started analyzing data. We just concluded how to expect, how to check certain variable within our given data. Now, if in the course of checking, there are possible errors that can be discovered, how do you deal with them? That is what data cleaning is all about. So that will take us to data cleaning techniques. So there are actually so many techniques based on the ones you feel you want to apply. So I will just run through the ones that are popular. And then if you want to deepen your research, you can research for more techniques. But there are some techniques that you cannot avoid as a data analyst. Those are the ones I want to focus on. Now, if I call out the DA3, because I'm looking for a data that have errors so that we can correct. Like this particular data now, we have some errors we need to fix here. We have some also that we can fix in the DA2, but let me start with this very one because the data is not much, so we can easily see some of the errors. Now, if you look at this data that you called out, this particular sign up, or let's say we want to check for missing value. That is the first task that we are asked to perform as data analysts. How to check for missing values. So let's assume that I want to check for missing value. And what do I mean by missing value? Anytime you see NaN in Python, it means empty cell. If you open this data set in a cell, what you are going to see here is what? The cell will be empty. That is what? At the point of data entry, the person did not feed in any value. So when you read such an empty cell to Python, Python will identify it as not a number. That is what the NaN represents. So which means that we have NaN here, missing value here, we have missing value. But if we are given a large data set, we cannot assume. For example, now, if I want to check for missing value on DA2, even record or data set that is up to like 5,000, and we all know that our Jupyter notebook does not have the capacity to display everything. At some point, some of them will be wrapping. So how do you now have the confidence as a data analyst that there's no missing value just because the record you are seeing at that moment, you can't see any. So you cannot conclude. So what you need to do is to officially find out the missing value. You have to find out. To find out, so I will just run it on both data so that we can see how it will go. So the syntax, remember we are answering this question. The question is that in this data set, check before you start your analysis whether there are cells without value. So the syntax will be the data set name, then dot is now. So this is the function we are going to use to check if we have missing value. If it return true, it means that what? You have missing value. If it return false, which are Boolean value, it means that you do not have missing value. So let's try it on the A2 dot is now. So if I run it, you see that it will return the entire data like this. And then all the places where you are seeing false, means that what? They are occupied. All the cells there, they have value. Now, let me run it on DA3. So let's say DA3 dot ISNA, DA3 dot ISNA, you see that what? We can easily find where we have true, which means that what? You have missing value here, you have missing value here, you have missing value here. But this is the reason why we are going to join another function called what? Dot any. The reason is that you can see this one now. All this dot we are seeing here means that what? The data set is what? wrap, because the framework cannot display everything. So there are some records that are behind. So you cannot conclude as a data analyst that there's no error just because you are seeing record 0 and all the value there are false. So you now assume that no missing value. Don't be surprised that most of those lines or record or rows that are not visible might carry what? Missing value. So the best thing to do is for you to use a technique where you can say, okay, you know what? If there are any missing value, return them. That is what? Display only those record, those rows. So by the time I run it on this data and it return only the headers without returning any record. So that assures me that there's no missing value. But if you return even one line, it means that what? On that row, you have missing value. So that is another task. But generally, this is the function for checking for missing value. Now, let's assume that this is a second task, which will lead to the concatenation of another function, which is called what? Dot any, just to help us to bring them out if there are any what? Missing value or any row where you have, even if it is one missing value, call out only what? Those rows. So that is a task, and that task is how to display or return only rows with missing values. So which means that it's going to return this row 6. Why? Because there is a cell with what? Missing value. It's going to return this one as well. And then it will return these 2 rows. So just to add to it, we are going to use 2 functions. We are going to use that ISNA, and what that ISNA will do is to identify them. And then once it identify them, then we will now use .any to what? To pull them out. So you are combining these 2 functions. This one, like I said, is to identify them, while this one is to call them out. So what is the syntax for those that are writing? The syntax will be, you call the data set name or the data frame name. Now you will not say that from, because you want to select. And remember that to select, we use the square bracket. You say from the data set, then you call the data set again, data set. Then why are we calling the data set? Let me just write it. You call data set, and then you concatenate the what? The ISNA first inside it. While you are still inside this square bracket, you now concatenate what? .any, and then you now put inside it, you say as is, inside it, you say as is. I think I'm correct. My as is equals to 1. As is equals to 1. So now, if you do not put as is equals to 1, it will call it in column, to call only column where you have missing value. I think let's try it first. Let's try without putting the as is so that we can see what we are going to get. So let's run the real code. So our data, I want to run it on this very one where I am sure that I have what? Missing value. But let me run it on the A3, sorry, the A2. The A2, then square bracket, the A2, then dot isna, then dot any. So if I run this, what do I have here? It's saying something. Let's check. Boolean series key. Okay. Unalignable Boolean series provide index. Okay, so let's provide the index. So let's put the as is equals to 1 and see what is going to happen. So let's see. What is the key error dot any? Okay, I think the error is in my spelling of as is. As is. Okay, so you can see what I was saying. It returns only the header. So as a data analyst, this is a confirmation that you don't have what? Missing value. If you have, it will have called it out. Now, let me run this same code on this data that we have confirmed that there are missing value. So I will just copy this code, Control C, and then so I will just modify here to what? The A3, and then also change here to the A3. So if I run it, you see what happened. So it brought out only rows where you have missing value. So this is a clear indication that what? There are missing values. So you must not proceed with your analysis until you sort them out. That is why we are talking about cleaning. Because when we get to the aggregate analysis where we want to add the values under, let's say I want to sum up, for example, now I want to sum up, let's say these are summable value. I want to sum up all the age. It's going to throw error because once you get to this NaN, Python we find difficult to decode that. So the last thing we are going to do here before I allow us to practice is now that we have discovered that there are missing value, how do we now solve them? How do we now replace them? Now remember that the reason why it was left blank or they were left blank in a cell because probably that customer or that follower does not have anything to be recorded. That is why the data entry personnel left them empty. So that empty also means 0. So I am not going to in any way tamper with the data or change the data by what? Converting all the NaN to what? 0. So what I will simply do, I will say, okay, what the person that imputed the data probably in a cell will have done is to add 0 in those cells instead of just leaving them what? Blank. So I will just on my own here substitute the 0. So that will take us to another cleaning task now, which is what? How to fill all the missing values or NaN with
Excuse me, please.
yes, sir.
Can I know the particular data you used
Okay.
for this for your DA3?
That one that I sent with customer, I think it's customer. Just check.
Customer, okay. Because the two I've been using, I've been calling, it's not returning any error. Customer.
Yes. Part of the data I sent to us that time. Customer.
Yeah, it's here.
So let me give us 5 minutes to attempt what we have done before we look at filling them. So 5 minutes for those that are working to try. All right, so we wanted to replace all the places where we have NaN with a number which can be determined by you. Like I said, here I'm using 0, so it doesn't change.
Excuse me, sorry. Sorry. This customer is CSV. I'm finding it difficult running it. I don't know why.
Have you confirmed
Can
that
I?
it's
Yeah.
CSV?
Yes,
Just
it's
okay,
CSV.
let's look at it. Let's
If I can see it up, anyway, let me just share.
share your screen. Let me see what you are saying.
Selena and Justin. Doesn't really go together. Furniture's from like 1,000 different places.
14 people in Casper knew I didn't have any money, so the bookshelf is from Jennifer, the town librarian. The table and chairs are from Mr. Grady's diner. The lamp is.
Can you see my screen?
Teaches Sunday school at Highland
Yes.
Church. Dr. Glassman, he got me my bag.
Yeah,
You have not run the cell now. Run the code. Run the code. Let's see.
just wanted to just like this.
Where did you
All
copy
right.
the part from? Where did you copy the part from? From the okay. You copy the part, right? Now go there and
Yeah.
delete. Remember other method when you run a data set like this and it not work, just run only the name. We have talked about all this. Only the name. Give us about
Yeah.
10 options. So have you tried this option? Delete this first. Let's just check this first. We are run this one. Let's see.
It's not.
No, you have to call DA4 in the next line now before you can see the data.
Okay.
Yes, because you have saved it in a variable, so you have to call DA4. DA4.
Then before I run,
yes, when you run it before you now see the record. Yes.
not my major.
So okay, so let's just
Let me
conclude.
start.
You can practice, at least you have the data with you now. So let's
Yes.
just conclude because I just have few of them. Now, we want to replace all this, and that will now take us to another function, which is called, so let's say with, how do we want to achieve that? We want to achieve that with .fina. So .fina is one of data cleaning function in Python, which is used to replace value. So in this case, we are replacing NaN with 0. So the syntax will be the data set name dot fill now. And then to implement it properly, I would say we're applying it on DA3. So I would say DA3 dot what? Fill now. Then you have to supply the value that will replace what you have there. Now, if the value is a string, you have to put it in quotes. But in this case, it's a number, which is what? 0. So I will just put it in there, and then that will update. So if I run it, you can see that it will return the whole of that data, and then you will see that all the places where you have any they are now replaced with what? 0. So that is how to replace missing value. Remember the key function we have introduced today are the isNow And then we are also able to combine .any so that we can call out only the rows with missing value. And then now that we are able to,
Can you go up a bit?
okay, here, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
We do not.
I hope you are done with that. So let's look at the next one. The next one is which sometime it could be applicable, but we just have to know it where you are mandated to do so, which is how to.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma.
Please, I want to capture the last part, please.
Is it here?
The syntax, yes.
Okay.
I'm coming. I'm done.
Okay. So we want to look at another data cleaning function, which is, let's say, how to drop missing value, how to drop missing value or missing cells, or we can as well say all the places where we have NaN, we want to drop them. But my concern about dropping is that if, for example, you call out the DA3, so if I call out the DA3, so mind you, the DA3 still remain the original data. So what you ought to have done, if this is the real data set you're analyzing, at the point where you have been able to replace all the NaN with a number, you will now equate it. You will now say, okay, this become maybe final underscore data. So so that anytime you call the A3 still remain the raw data, the one with what? The error. Then this one is the one you have corrected what? The error. That is, if I call final here now, if I call final FI, remember I will just tap what? My tap, and then to bring out all the keywords, and then I choose. So you can see that this is the right thing to do as a data analyst. Once you get the corrected one, you save it in a variable. Now, which means that we still have the A3 with the missing value. That is why I was able to call it back now to show us something. Now, let's assume that you are asked to drop the whole of the column just because there are some cell with what? No value. Now, my concern is that this value, if you are dropping the whole of followers from this whole data, just because we have 2 places or 3 places where we have no value, you might be causing a damage because this value, this 12, might have a way of influencing your analysis. But where you have considered all factor and there is no instance where this will be needed. So because of that, you want to remove it. And apart from that, probably you just want to reduce the data length. Maybe your analysis zeros or name, age, and income. So all these other ones, you can even think of dropping them. But what we are focusing on now is that any column and any row, because we are going to run it for both column and row. That is, if under any of this column there are missing value, for that reason, the whole of that column should be deleted. Let's assume that is the question. Or if there is any row, for the fact that you have one of the cell without value, the whole of that row should be deleted. This can be instruction or what you can conclude on. So let's just learn the technique. Let's say we want to do that. So for us to do that, we are going to say this is the A3 now. So I will just say dot. We are using a different function, drop now. Drop now. That is what we are using. So if I run it like this, what happened, so that we know the type of drop, whether it is vertical dropping, which is column, or horizontal dropping, which is row. Now what happened? The whole of the rows where you have missing value has been deleted from this data. So which means that this very one is what? How to drop missing value based on rows. If the instruction is any record or any row where there's missing number or missing value should be removed, you run it like this. Now, if I copy this one now to be the second task, the second task is that if I call back my DA3 now, which I still have the error there, the task now is that we should delete the column, not the row. So how do we put that? Let's target how to drop columns with NaN, which also mean what? Missing value, which means missing value. So how do we drop it? Now, the only difference between the syntax we have used that drop based on row is just to add what? That axis equals to 1. That is all. So let's say the syntax, for those that are writing, the syntax will be, if I paste this one, I will just add inside here axis equals to 1. So once I add this axis equals to 1, drop axis, okay, I think my axis equals to 1. If you run it, what happened? You can see that follower header or heading has gone. Well, because if you trace under it, you have 2 places, if not 3 places where you have missing number. That is why the whole of that follower is no longer on the data set. Now, if you check here now, you have age. Under age, we also have what? 2 places where we have missing value. So age is no longer in the data set. I think these are the only column where we have missing value, right? And then you have other ones. So just take note of this. This is what? Based on column. The only difference between the two syntax is that when you want to delete column because they have missing value, you add axis equals to 1 inside the drop now function. Where you want to delete rows just because they have missing value, you just call the function. So let me give us some minutes for those that are working alongside with me to apply before we look at the last one. I hope we are working. All right, so I believe you must have tried something. Now, let's look at something else. Let's assume that this time around is not deleting based on missing value. You just feel that there are some value, there are some column that should be dropped from the data. So you call in your data set. You, after assessing what you want to analyze, you now discover that there are some unnecessary columns with values that you do not need. So this time around is not about whether there's missing value. So how do we now delete them without using that? So we're going to use, there's a function. So let's tag it how to delete an entire column from the data set. So like I said, this has nothing to do with missing value. You just feel that maybe this graduate school column is not making any, is not contributing to your analysis. So you want to reduce the width of your data. So you want to remove it. So the function we are going to use here is not drop now. It's just what? Dot drop. That is the function we are going to use. Just what? Drop. Once you add the na, that is what? NaN. It means the condition for removing that column is where there is what? Missing value. So the syntax will be this. The syntax will be this. The data set name, data set name, dot drop, and then you open a bracket, then that particular header that you want to delete, you put it as a string. So let's say what? Header, since we are just defining the structure, header to delete here. And then after that, you now put a comma after the string, and then you specify the word, the as is equals to 1. That is the syntax. Now let's apply it. What is the task? The task here is delete graduates. I think graduate school. Let me check again. Yes, delete, sorry. Thought we have, okay, educational level. Delete educational level. Delete educational level from the DA3 data sets. So that's the task. So the syntax, like I said, the A3 dot drop, then I'll quote that header. Now, at times, I will always advise go and copy it to avoid typographical error. Control C, and then come back here and paste it, and then put a comma here and say what? As is equals to 1. So if I run it, you see that what? I have deleted the whole of that what? Column from the entire data set. I hope that is clear. Let me get a response, please, because I have just one more, and then we will come to the end of the popular data cleaning functions. Do we have question? I hope that is clear. Nobody is talking. It means all is well, right? Okay, so let's just take the last one, and then you can visit the video and make sure that you apply everything. For those of us that have not been able to install, once you install, please make sure that you update to where we are. So the last data cleaning I want to look at tonight before we close is let's assume that, okay, let me just write this, how to rename data features or header in Python without you taking it back to Excel. So let me call out the A3 so that will show us the essence of this. Now you can see that by the time we start, by the time I want to select this, let's say I want to bring out only what this particular information from this data, which is going to be our major focus in the next class. The next class we start analysis, but we will start with filtering a set of analysis. So let's say, for example, I call the A3 and I say dots, and I want to paste this. You can see that if I run it, I'm getting error because I want to bring out only that header. Now, what is happening here is that Python is not seeing these two words as one. That is why one has a different color from the other. So this is an error that we need to correct. So which means that we will call out all the header where you have more than one word describing them. We are going to what? Either merge them together or we will add underscore so that I can call it the way I wanted to call it, because these ones that have single word now, if I want to call out this, you can see how it's going to be possible with the syntax that I intend to use. Look at it here. So if I paste it here and I run it, you see the way it calls out everything. If I put name here also, if I put name here and I run it, you see the way it calls out the name. But the moment if I put any of this, if I put this Control C, those one with 2 words or 3 words without having underscore in between them, if you run it, you are going to get error. So how do I quickly correct it? To correct this means I have to what? Rename these two headers. So I want to rename these two headers. So anytime you are given data sets in Python to analyze, and you are trying to perform some analysis, but you discover that the space between these words are like obstacle, you don't need to take it back to Excel and go and edit, because it's very easy to fix over there. And then you start loading it again. No, you can fix that here with a function called what? Rename. So that is what we are looking at here now. How do we rename it here? So we are using a function. We are using a function called dot rename. So this is the function that is going to achieve that for us. So what is the syntax of that function? What will be the syntax? So the syntax will be, you start with the data set name, you concatenate it with the function. That's what? Data set name dot rename, and then you open the brackets. Now, remember that we treated dictionary in Python. I told us that dictionary means two, how did we refer to dictionary? That I said dictionaries are key value pairs. Good, that's what, two in one. The key, which is like sub-variable, and the value. So that same dictionary logic is what we are going to use to solve this problem. So, but before that, I have to call an attribute that will indicate, that will tell Python that I am working on headers. So I will say column first. I'll say columns. I'll say equals to, and then I will open the dictionary coiling brackets. If you can still remember the beginning classes. Now here, I will use, remember this is the syntax. Here is what? The old header. Let me interpret it this way. Old header. And then between it and where you want to define the new header, you put column. Remember the dictionary concept. Then I bring in another one, the new header follow. New header. Now, depending on the numbers of headers you want to change. So you add a comma, and then you now start with the what? The string again. So this one can be what? Old header 1. This one is what? New 1. So I can say this one is what? Old. Let me just do it for 2. Old header 2. Then remember that is a dictionary, and then old new header 2. So you continue like that. Now there is an attribute that sometimes you add if it's not working for you. So you just say in place. Do I discover that these days this function can be done with and it's still working? But in case you run it without it, it doesn't work, then you add this and then you put what? True here, which means you are giving a permission that in the place of those old ones, they should be replaced with the new ones you are specifying. So what is our task here now? The task is that from the DA3, from what? DA3 data, the 3 data set, rename, I think we have educational level. That is where we have 2 words. And which one again? And the sign up date. I think so. These are the only 2 headers that require that adjustment. So what I'm going to do is to implement this syntax. And what is the syntax? The name of the data set is da3.rename. Rename, then open the bracket, specify that it's columns that you want to work with, equals to then the bracket. So the first one is, look at how you do it. You come and copy it. Please learn to copy. If you go and start typing, I might make mistake, put it inside. Then you come in here, put your column, and then open the next string. Then paste that same one that you copied before, but this time around, you either make them like this. This is one option, or you add underscore in between them. You add underscore. So this one is going to look for this and then replace it with this. So I'll put a comma just like the syntax that I illustrated above here. Then I'll bring in another one, another string, then copy the next one I want to edit. So that is how you go about it until you edit all the headers with 2 words space in between them. So I'll paste this one here. That is the old one. Then column and the string, paste again. Then you either merge them together or you also add what? Underscore. So when you are through, like I said, if it doesn't work by the time you run it, then you now add this word in place equals to true. But let me confirm if mine will work without it. So if I run this code now, you see I am getting what? Error. Okay, sorry, this one is so it has worked. You can see that it returned it and the underscore has what? Be substituted. Now, that same thing that we were trying to do the other time, let's say I want to call out this using the concatenation method. So if I say what? From the A3 dots, the A3, let me just copy this one that we have edited, Control C, and then I come here and paste, and then run it. You see that what? Okay, let's see, data frame object has no attribute what? Underscore. Okay, so it's still having issue of identification based on the data type. So if we do something like .info now, we might get to know why it's not calling it. So once it doesn't call it like that, what I'm going to do is to use another method, which I will emphasize more in the next class. So what I'm going to do is that I will remove the dot. I will not use the concatenation. I will use square bracket. But if I'm using square bracket, I have to put it in what? In a string like this. And then if I call it, and then let's see what happened. This, what error again? Education level. So let's run everything again, because I expected that to bring out values. Okay, so let me try it on this one. Let me try it on this one. I expected it to have worked, but let me try it, debug it. If this one works, then we will know that so sign up, so it has not recognized it. Now let's do something. Let me add this in place. In place equals to the T should be in capital letter. So let's see. You have to debug. Let's see. Okay, that is not even bringing. Okay, let me. Okay, I think it's even working without it. What I'm going to do here is let me merge them together. I want to check something. Remember, I said you can use that option if the underscore is not okay. Let's see. Sign update keyword. Okay. It has not updated. Let me run again. Supposed to have worked, but let's just see. Okay, so now let's try that either the dot method, the A3 dot. Let me copy this. Control C. So if this doesn't work, I will know that it's from the data. Let me check again. Let me use the square bracket, sorry. This is serious. I think it's from my notebook, but you can try it over there. It should also work. Okay, let me try it with another one. Those ones that we did not edit. Let me use it to find out. If I have anybody who is working, you can try there. Sometime it can be from your notebook. Once you restart, it might pick up. I want to know whether the problem is identifying those headers. Okay, so which means that it's from identifying this. So there's no time if I restart it and I bring it. So that's why I wanted Mr. Ambrose, I think you are working that time. Can we use your to quickly confirm? Let's see, because I know that we are doing the right thing.
My brother, I am just leave it for now. Who watch and follow, because even me myself, I'm the last two before this one you did now. I have error there. So, but I
Okay.
couldn't ask you to go up. Just leave
Okay.
it. I will take it up and do by myself.
Okay, so everybody should just watch the video. I believe it should be able to work for you out there. I know if I restart mine to work, but should in case it did not work for you, let us know in the next class before we continue. So I will try and find out. We can try it. Now, sometime, if you want to know whether it's from the data, if you have time, now call another data, because if I call the A2 here now, there are columns that I can also change. and then use it to check whether the problem is from the data. So you have like a total cost here. So you can edit all this. Like now, I think we have this that has been edited. So let's say I call this one now. Let me even use it to find out if the problem is from this. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to concatenate and run it. So you can see that it came out because this one, we have done it before now. So you can see the way it came out easily. So that's why I'm saying that it's possible that your notebook have not acknowledged it. Once you restart, it might pick, but let me leave it with us to try there. And again, let me get feedback on Thursday. All right, so if there's no question, this is where we stop. So please, it's a compulsory assignment to those of us that have installed Anaconda. And eventually you are able to install tomorrow before Thursday. Try as well to sit down with the video and apply everything we have done from the beginning of this Python data analysis down to where we are, please. If there's no question, do we have question? There's no question. We call it a section. All right. So good night. If there's no question.
Good night.
All right, good night.
You're welcome.